Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel and you're new to the crew, I truly appreciate you for coming through. But today we're going to be talking about the top 6 favorite budget, actually mid-range devices that I have and that I'm really enjoying right now. The first one is the Honor X10, and this is a 6.63 full HD plus display on here, and it's going to be really nice in the hand, really good to hold in the hand with a really nice camera setup. As you can see, the back is going to be like a really nice reflective material, which is going to be a side mounted fingerprint sensor on the right, volume rockers right above it, and we do have Magic 3.1.1, but this is going to be getting an update to the Harmony OS, and I will make a separate video about that later on. But 4,300 for the milliamp hour battery. It's got the Kirin 820, which is made by Huawei, so they made the hardware and they made the software on this guy, which is pretty crazy. You can also change the refresh rate from 90 to 60. It does have a 40 megapixel camera inside of here, which is going to be made by Sony, 16 megapixel pop-up, as well as some really other cool configurations. So the other camera is the 8 megapixel for the wide angle and the 2 megapixel for the macro, and the pop-up selfie is going to be that 16 megapixel from Sony that goes up to 120, ultra wide, which is pretty nuts. So that's a really cool feature that this thing has, is that it's got the pop-up selfie camera, which is going to be, it does pixel bin, but what I'm saying, which camera doesn't, you know what I mean? So it's got some pretty decent cameras, got some really decent hardware and software, because that Kirin 820 chip is going to be a 7-nanometer processing chip. It's the high silicon Kirin 820, so it's going to be put along with the ARM Mali G57, which is really crazy, and you're going to be able to get extreme graphics on here, extreme frame rate on here with the low on the graphics, but it will look really crazy. As far as the display, it's plenty bright, right? Because it's coupled with 6 gigabytes of RAM. It's also coupled with 128 of internal storage, or 64, but there's no expansion after that. So it's made of like a nice material, which is IP5X, which is like water and dust resistant, and it's got a TFT LCD IPS display, 20:9, 397 for the pixels per inch. So this is one of my favorites to use with that 90 hertz refresh rate pop-up selfie camera. In the fingerprint sensor is side mounted. It also does have some really nice storage on here, but it doesn't get expansion. The next device we're going to be talking about is the LG G8X ThinQ, which is going to be pretty crazy, because this device did offer a dual display on here, which is pretty nuts. It did get dual stereo speakers, 6.4 inches, full HD plus displays. They're both going to be 403 for the PPI Gorilla Glass 5 on here. OLED panel, 6.4 inches, 1080 by 2340 for the display dimensions. So it's going to be very, very nice to look at, good for handling lots of things, multitasking on both screens and things of that nature. It's upgradable to Android 10, I believe. Mine still is on like 9 for some reason, I'm not sure why, but this thing will have that 32 megapixel front selfie camera, which is definitely pretty cool, and it's going to be pretty solid to look at and things of that nature. So it's got some 13 megapixel wide angle camera on the back, as well as a 12 megapixel 0.2 standard, which is pretty nuts. And then it's got that HDR10 quality. When you're looking at the OLED, it's going to be really solid in outdoor areas. The glass is pretty solid on here. It's got that IP68 water resistancy military standard at the 810 certification, so it's pretty solid. It's been tested for that type of outdoor use, and it also does have stereo speakers. We also do get the quad DAC on here with the headphone jack, which is pretty crazy. Buttons on the left you also get a Google Assistant button on the left with the volume rockers right above it, and the power button on the right, and then on the rear you can see that the camera configuration with the case over top of it. So this is one of my favorite devices. Build quality is pretty solid on here. It's also got some really sweet cameras that have manual video manual, which is pretty nuts, and video picture. But the next device we're going to be talking about is the Poco X3 NFC. And this is probably one of the best devices you could pick up because it's got some really nice cameras, but it also does have a really nice screen and performance as well. And it's going to be marked down from the original price. It's got a really nice camera setup, 64 megapixel standard, 13 megapixel wide, 2 megapixel portrait, and 2 megapixel macro. And it's got a nice variety of features on here. We also do get the accelerometer, compass, gyroscope, light sensor as well. 64 gigabytes of internal storage, expandable as well to that. But when it comes to the processing chip, it's the Snapdragon 732G 8nm processing chip, and then for the graphics, it's going to be the Adreno 8, the 618. So it's got some pretty decent cameras on the back of it, which are pretty cool. The quad camera arrangement, it does go up to 4K as well. On the front, you do get the 20 megapixel, and it does have 10 times digital zoom, 4K 30, but no 60 on here. So I just want to throw that out there. But I like to play around with this device for the manual video. It has like a manual video mode, which is pretty cool. It also supports aptX and things like that. So it's pretty low consumption, but you will get nice audio quality from the headphone jack, as well as the stereo speakers and the Bluetooth as well, because it's got some really nice Bluetooth technology that they're using. No drops whatsoever when I was using the Google Maps, but the side mounted fingerprint sensor was pretty snappy on here too. So I just want to throw that out there, that the side mounted fingerprint sensor and the facial ID on here, punch hole on the front, pretty decent scrolling speeds at that 120 hertz refresh rate. So it's going to be good for gaming. You could play like Fortnite on here. You could also mess around with the display, so you can change that to 60 to save battery and things of that nature. So I thought that was pretty cool as well. The next device that we're going to be talking about is the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G, and there's actually the 4G that I'm going to be talking about there, but there is a 5G model, so I just don't want you to get confused with that one. But this one will have that 90 hertz refresh rate. We also do have a Helio G80 5000 milliamp hour battery as well, with the 20 megapixel selfie camera, 64 on the rear, full HD display, full HD plus with the 6.4 inch display on here. So updates always available. We also do get Android 11 on here. We also do have an AMOLED display, which is really bright for outdoor usage, 411 for the PPI. So it's going to be very nice to look at when you're using an Infinity U display. So it's kind of like, I wish they had a punch hole instead of that, right? But that's still going to be pretty solid because it's the U one, but it's not the punch hole one. So I just want to throw that out there. But we got some really nice features on the camera that does have 1080 30 and 1080 60, but there wasn't any 4K on here. But we did get some really nice zoom wide angle cameras on here as well. So it's got the 8 megapixel wide angle, 2 megapixel, actually 5 megapixel portrait, and 5 megapixel macro. We also do have, we don't have optical stabilization on here, but it does, kind of have a nice steady, like when you're holding it, it's going to be pretty steady as well. So it's made of all plastic, but it's got the Type-C on here. It's also got the headphone jack on here and the in-display fingerprint on here as well. So really nice feel in the hand, really lightweight, really good to hold in the hand, and it's going to unlock pretty quickly with the fingerprint sensor. Now, the next device we're going to be talking about is the OnePlus N10 5G, and this is going to be a really solid device to use in 2021 going into 2022. It's got the Android 11 is running on here. It's also got the 64 megapixel, 16 megapixel for the front, and then the 64 on the rear, which is cool. So it's the 4,300 milliamp hour battery, which is going to pretty much last, like 2 days or something like that, depending on how much you use the device or whatever. But as far as the display, it's 6.49 full HD plus. So it's got some really nice viewing angles to it. 406 for the PPI, 90 hertz refresh rate as well. So the cameras are pretty decent as well. It's going to record really nice and stabilized, but it's also got like 10 times, digital zoom or whatever. So wide angle is pretty nice on here to have. And the fact that they did put that 10 times was pretty cool. The 16 megapixel front camera is definitely pretty cool, but you can see the arrangement that square, that cap that they put on top of here. They put the camera cap right on the back, and you can see it's just tucked. It's not tucked, but it pops out just a little bit. I kind of wish it was tucked, but it doesn't bother me that it's not tucked or whatever. So they put the cap on there, so it's not that bad. But as far as the overall user interface, it's definitely pretty cool, because we have that, you know, we have that Oxygen OS on here, which is pretty nice. Stereo speakers as well, which get plenty loud, so I had no issues whatsoever with the stereo speakers. Those got plenty loud, and it did, the screen got plenty sharp. Everything was like really sick on here, so I didn't really have any issues when I was using this thing, because I was really happy with the refresh rates, the overall performance and updates that I was getting on this thing. But if you have the N10, leave a comment down below and let me know how it's holding up after you got the Android 11 update on here. But it's a fingerprint magnet. That's the only thing I didn't really like. But the next update that we're going to be talking about is the Google Pixel 6, and I just got this device pretty recently. It's 6.4 inch full HD plus display OLED panel, which is going to be really nice for outdoor use. It's kind of heavy at 207 grams of weight. It's got the Tensor chip on here. It also does have a 4,600 milliamp hour battery, 50 megapixel rear Samsung camera, and an 8 megapixel on the front. Android 12 is out of the box, which is kind of cool as well, and it's pretty zippy. Really good picture quality on here. IP68 for the water resistance wireless charging, but it has that AMOLED panel like I mentioned, and a 403 for the PPI, and a 90 hertz refresh rate, which is pretty cool. But if you did find this video helpful, make sure to leave a like and a comment down below, and subscribe and get notified, and hit the bell as well for more videos just like this. And if you're already a part of the crew, salute. I'm gonna get right back with you later, crew. These are really good gifts for the holiday season. I'll leave links right down below. Peace. Later, peace.